Okay, this is the first of 3 lectures in Lesson 12. This first lecture is going to be about the vocabulary, which you see here, and we're going to talk about linear perspective, which is everything in this column here and over on this page. Now, this is the beginning of Section 4, which is the last section in this class, and it has, and this is Lesson 12, the first lesson, which the illusion of space is really about the things you see in real life and how do you draw them to show that there is an illusion of actually being there. And the Western idea of that has been developed since about the late 1400s, and what it is called linear perspective. Now, what we're going to cover in here in Lesson 12 is the first 2 aspects of linear perspective, which is 1- and 2-point perspective. So this vocabulary right here is going to basically just discuss the anatomy of those terms and the way that you would depict that. So, on this piece of paper, one of the first things that you need in describing space is, where does the space go? The space goes to the horizon, and the horizon would be a line which you could call the horizon line. Now, some people also call that, I'm going to write horizon line here. It can also be called the eye line. Now, the reason it's called the eye line is because it is your point of view that you see. And so what you see is coming out of your eyes. And so if you're looking straight ahead, it's whatever is level with your eyes. So for instance, if you're standing up looking at something, you're about, depending on how tall you are, you could be 5 feet, 4.5 to 5.5 feet off the floor. If you're sitting down, you're probably somewhere around 2.5 to 3 feet off the floor. That would be your eye line. Your eye line is always measured from your eyes where they are when you are drawing. Or if you want to make everything at that eye line and you say, well, I'm above or below the eye line, that's when that would show a point of view. Okay, we talked about point of view last time with isometric and oblique perspective. Now, above the eye line simply means everything above it. Below the eye line simply means everything below it, and on the eye line means anything that crosses and is both above and below. So now we'll start, first of all, with 1-point perspective. 1-point perspective is just what that means. There's 1 point. Now, first of all, the eye line does not have to be in the middle of the paper. Mine's a little above middle. It depends on what you want to do with your drawing. If you want a lot of objects above the eye line, then you'd probably want your eye line lower. If you want a lot of things below the eye line, then you'd want your eye line higher. And that's all it is it's just giving you more room to draw. So usually I tell students in the beginning, put it in the middle, and then you kind of have an even chance at doing stuff above and below. Now, 1-point perspective, again, just means that, 1 point. Let me draw, if I was to illustrate down here in the bottom, I'm going to put some ears on this person here and give him a nice haircut. This will be a boy, I guess. Okay, so there's the back of somebody's head. Now, what this means is that this is the person's point of view. The person is in the middle of the paper. If the person was on the right, then you could move the point to the right. The idea here is that wherever you put the point, everything you draw in here will look like you're looking at it from this perspective or this point of view. Okay, so I'm going to use those simple geometric shapes that I've used before. And because that's the easiest way to illustrate this, although as we move on, we will talk about almost immediately other ways to illustrate this. Okay, so I have this rectilinear shape. I talked about this last time. in the last lecture. And I said, okay, if this is a horizontal on the bottom, right, parallel to the bottom of your paper, this is a shape. This has two corners, they're equidistant from you. And I said that that was called oblique perspective, but it would also be called one-point perspective. Well, here's the one-point perspective. Now all you're simply doing here, instead of having parallel lines going on a 45, the lines have to recede. The receding lines have to go to the point. The point has to be on the horizon line or the eye line. From now on, I'm going to refer to this as the horizon line, but these terms are used interchangeably, but in order to describe what it means, I used eye line today. But I probably won't use that in the future, okay? So all the corners, and I'm putting a dot on here so you can see these corners. All these corners, if you were to even use a ruler, they all have to go directly to this point. I'm going to freehand mine, so just to speed things up a little bit for right now. Now, these two don't really show up because they're beneath this illusionary object. So I'm just going to use the top two right now. Okay, now this type of illusion, how big you make it is up to you. How deep you make it is up to you. No matter where you put it, it's going to be correct. To complete an accurate illusion, if you have horizontal lines here in the front and you're making a simple shape, the end of the illusion should be the same kind of line, which means the same horizontal line. Okay, I could have made it thinner, I could have made it deeper, but this is the illusion of a geometric shape receding into the distance to a point right in front of you in one-point perspective. Okay, now this is considered below the eye line. I can also put one above the eye line and see the same thing. And I can make this one a little thinner. Now you notice we no longer have parallel lines here. These are called converging lines. They converge away from you. Now here you see the top of the box. Here you're seeing the bottom. So that's the illusion that you've produced here by drawing something above the eye line. Means this is higher than you are. Here it's lower than you are. You say, well, I want to put one on the eye line. Okay, let's put one, yeah, I guess I'll put it right here. We'll do a couple. I'm going to cover this word up here, but I don't think that's going to matter. Now, when I said put it on the eye line, it can be anywhere on the eye line. Does not have to be cut in half like this. I just did that. In other words, I made it equidistant from the above and below, but you don't have to do that. Now you notice when it's on the eye line, the top of it is above your eye line, so you can't see the top. The bottom of it is below your eye line, so you can't see the bottom. So in this case, since the object is on the eye line, you no longer see the top or the bottom. So that's the difference by putting something on the eye line. You'll see the size of it, but you won't see the top or the bottom. We say, what if I put it right on the line? I'll put this one right on the line. It's now above the eye line, okay? But you still have to take these corners to the vanishing point. So at this now what happened is the bottom is a complete straight line. See that? And only the top has a angled receding line going to the vanishing point. So if it's on the line or anywhere on it or across it, you will not see the top or the bottom. As soon as I move it slightly above the line, like let's say if I put a small one here just to illustrate that point, these corners still have to go here. This corner still has to go there. This still has to be horizontal with the other one. Now you notice how this is a very difficult, this very small space in here. But there is a bottom. You can see the bottom here. So the thing is either when you're first starting out, it's better to be either pretty far above or below or right on it. when you start getting very close to it, you get very small, oblique little shapes, which are sometimes difficult for beginners to figure out, okay? You can make them any shape. I mean, I can make a big one here, like this, below the line, just to illustrate. And you can pretty much do endless amount of these. Now, all the vertical lines in 1 point perspective are straight up and down. Later, you will see how you can make interesting shapes out of this, and I'll talk about that in the third lecture, okay, in this section. You always start out with a geometric block first, especially when starting out. Okay, so what do we have here to recap real quick? We have shape, we have vertical lines and horizontal lines, we have 1 point perspective, eye line and horizon line, above the eye line, below the eye line, and on the eye line. Okay, this is 1 point perspective. Now you cannot have more than 1 point on a whole drawing in 1 point perspective. You can't put another one here and then put another one of these over here and then go over here. You cannot do that. Why? Well, it doesn't look right. The reason it doesn't look right is because this is telling you that you are now here. This is telling you you're here. You can't be in two places at once. You cannot put a line here, a point there. You can't put points here. Only 1 point in 1 point perspective and only on the line. If you want to put it here, you can. Now you will be over here. This is where you'll be now, and everything will have to go over here. So that's why people usually put it in the middle. It does look very static. Okay, next one we're going to talk about is 2 point perspective. Now, 2 point perspective involves a field of view. We start out with a horizontal eye line again. Oops, I should have said horizon line. Now, the field of view in 2 point perspective is defined by the points. The farthest points that you can use are at the edges of your paper. That's 2 point perspective. Now what that means is you cannot draw anything outside of the points. This represents your peripheral vision. If you were to put the 2 points here and here, everything has to go to 2 points. You can't put anything outside of it because it can't go back this way. It'll fold in on itself. This represents your peripheral vision, so you have to have them out here. Okay, nothing can be drawn outside the points. That's why we put them out on the edges of the paper. Okay, 2 point perspective. I'll put that up here. Now, there are some differences about 2 point perspective. Now, we did talk about the closest corner. Okay? Closest corner means that I'm going to go above the eye line, and what you do when you draw a 2 point perspective is you draw the corner first. And it depends on how tall you make the line and how tall the corner is to how large the shape is. The ends of the line become the points. They go this way and this way. I'm just being a little rough with it. Okay, now again, as in 1 point perspective, you have to define how deep or how big the box is. That's your job. This is a vertical line. This one has to be a vertical line. It could be here, here, wherever I want to put it. I'm going to make it right here for now. I need to do this side too. Now, if I was making a cube, I would just guess and say, well, a cube probably would look something like this, I guess, okay? Now what you did is you defined 4 more points. Only 2 of them are going to show up because it's above the eye line, so it's going to be the bottom. The one on the right has to go to the left. The one on the left has to go to the right. What happens in here is you made the back corner. So that's the bottom. So that's a 2-point perspective above the eye line. 2-point perspective on the eye line, well, I can put one here. Now you see again, it starts with the corner. Now the fact that this is your field of vision, everything is going to look the same if you use the same 2 points. So I'm going to illustrate something here. 2-point perspective just simply means that each object has to have 2 points. Each object can have its own 2 points. It does not have to use the same ones. If it uses the same ones, everything will in space be parallel to each other in the illusion. Like let's say if you set up your sofa and your sofa was sitting there on the floor and you had a chair next to it and you had the chair on an angle, then that would be the same thing as having 2 sets of 2-point perspective. So in other words, they can share points or have their own. In this case, I'm going to use this one. I'm going to use this same point here, but I'm going to make up another point and put it here. The fact that it's on the eye line means I'm not going to see the top or the bottom, right? And this is now not in the illusion. It doesn't really look much different, see, because you see in 2-point perspective these objects can rotate, and as they rotate the points can move in and out. They can't go, but the thing is you could not put the box outside of the points. But you say, well, this one is outside this point. Yes, but you're not using this point for this one. That's why 2-point perspective gives a lot more range when you're drawing an illusion than 1 point. Okay, so let's do a couple more. Let's say, let's make one down here. Oh yeah, I want to illustrate something else. Now you see how I draw this really large line here. This is a big box now in a corner, and this is below the eye line. Let's see what happens. Now, I can use this point if I want to, or I can make another one. I didn't have to use any of them, but I'm sharing this one with this one, but I think I'll just make another one over here, okay?